So thank you very much, everyone, for logging in today for Stone and Chalk's Tested Marketing Tactics with Fiverr. We have a very special guest joining us today, all the way from Tel Aviv. Not in person, she got to stay there, which is good for us and probably more convenient for her. So before we get started, I do have some quick housekeeping. We did have over 100 participants joining us today. So lots of fantastic questions were submitted when you guys registered, and I know that you will have more as they come up and as our talk happens throughout the night. So if we don't get to your questions, we do apologize, but we will leave a little bit of time at the end to get to some of the audience questions. So please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And at the end, we will also distribute a very short survey. It's super quick, I promise. We would really appreciate it if you could complete it. Just helps us improve and make sure that we're running amazing events with amazing speakers. I think we hit it out of the park tonight with this one, but we would really love your feedback on what to do next. So I know all of you guys are not Stone and Chalk residents. So for those of you who are new to our virtual space, Stone and Chalk was founded in FinTech in 2015, but we have since expanded to all emerging tech, including industries such as prop tech, insure tech, ag tech, health tech, defense tech, and space tech. So we're doing a lot in lots of different spaces. So if you are in one of those and would like to find out a bit more about Stone and Chalk, please come and chat to us, I guess virtually, because we're not here in person. But we are a not-for-profit organization, and our mission is to nurture, connect, and propel those who are seeking to solve the world's most pressing business challenges. So in this sense, we are shaping the future together. And we do have a proven track record in providing successful growth and support frameworks for founders who are in those emerging tech sectors. So that's enough from me. We've got a lot to cover here tonight. So I would love to introduce you to our special guest, Gali Arnon. So Gali has been the Chief Marketing Officer for Fiverr. We're super excited to have her here tonight. She's been there since October 2017. And prior to that, she had an amazing, basically she's been the VP of marketing at like every cool company, including Brightcom, including SimilarWeb, and also Holdings. So we are going to get started. Gali, tell us a little bit about yourself and Fiverr.
Hi. So really happy to be here. Thank you for having me. So I guess, you talked about me a bit. I'll talk about Fiverr. So Fiverr was founded in 2010 with a very simple idea. And the idea was allowing people to buy a digital service in the same manner that they can buy a physical good on an e-commerce platform. So, the same very simple one-click model in which you can buy, I don't know, a pair of shoes on Amazon will become something that that will allow you to purchase a graphic design from a great designer, or a website development, or anything like that. So with this SAP model, which is service as a product, we came out to the market 10 years ago. And the way we're thinking about it is that our mission was always to change how the world works together. We've been at the forefront of the future of work since we were founded. I think what happened now with the pandemic worldwide just proven to the world that everything that we've been preaching for the last 10 years, that you can work with talent remotely, that people can work together from all over the world, that talent is global, that working remotely, you're now based in Australia, I'm based in Tel Aviv, and we're having this webinar, is actually passable, right? And people can do business together from all over the world. So that's Fiverr. Basically, it's a two-sided marketplace. We have talented freelancers from all over the world, over 160 countries, in over 400 digital categories, like graphic and design, music and audio, programming and tech, writing and translation, and more, offering their services to businesses from every possible size, from lean entrepreneurs, startups, to medium-sized businesses, and up to the biggest companies in the world. Yeah, so that's Fiverr. This is us.
That's awesome. And so I guess a lot has changed in the, 3 years that you've been there now? I'm curious, what are some of the ways that you were doing marketing for Fiverr in the earlier days versus now?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that was clear when I joined Fiverr is that there were two departments. There was the brand marketing department, was based mainly overseas, and when I say main overseas, I mean not in Tel Aviv, right? So in the US, in San Francisco, in New York. And there was another team that was leading the growth marketing, so performance marketing, data-driven marketing. And they were managed under two different managers. And I think the first thing we did was to combine them under one umbrella, right? Because eventually, the way we're structured was affecting the way we were communicating with our customers or using our marketing messages. Wasn't always a unified marketing message or tone of voice. So you could have found, ads in out of home that speaks one language, and then, ads on Facebook that speaks completely different language with completely different creatives. So I think the first challenge, and something that we're doing very different now, is working under unified brand guidance and look and feel and tone of voice and clear branding guidelines, which is something I'm very proud of. Another thing that changes is our approach to personalization and how we look at customers. So I think a big challenge is when you have so many customers, and by the way, you don't have just one type of customers, right? Because you have two-sided marketplace. You have freelancers, which are your customers, right? From over 400 categories. And you have businesses of all sizes from all those countries as well. So you have such a diverse group of customers that you really need to personalize your messages and make sure that you use the right message with the right audience at the right time. I think this is a place where we became much more advanced with technology and data science models that helped us to really design and our messages in a different way.
I guess, yeah, speaking of that message design, one of the things I'm really interested in is the sense or the perception that Fiverr is just for $5 jobs. Do you ever still run into that issue? And if so, what do you do to, I guess, combat that?
So yeah, first of all, yeah, to be honest, yes, we're still sometimes being perceived as a marketplace for $5 services. And honestly, this is where we started. I think this is what's so special about Fiverr. Because when Fiverr started, the idea of buying a digital service online wasn't something that people were used to, right? And in order to penetrate the market with art marketing budgets and without the capital to kind of advertise that you exist, the $5 was a great entry point, right? Because if people have no risk, because when you will buy a logo and it will be the same price as buying coffee at Starbucks, you have no risk. And this is how, in the first 3 years, we didn't invest even $1 in marketing, right? Because it just created such a huge viral effect and a network effect that the company expanded tremendously without the need to invest in marketing. So that worked in our favor, and it was great. But then we wanted to evolve, because eventually we wanted to have all kind of high quality freelancers that will never sell their services for $5. How do you do that? So when we evolved in terms of our product, which means that we offered services in various prices, the challenge was on the marketing side. How do you then change the perception of Fiverr being a marketplace that is much more than $5 services, right? So we use different tactics. One, I think that the product has changed tremendously. So when you go to the platform now, you can still find very affordable prices with great value for money. And you can also find high quality services that will be more expensive, still with a great value for money, because you probably get the best deal no matter what the price is on Fiverr. So how do you deal with this on the marketing front? I think the first thing we started doing is showing the quality of the deliverables. So showing and proving by using different channels like influencers marketing and social, that kind of diverse, high quality deliverables that you can find on the platform. And that was one. We also used influencers and celebrities to start selling on our platform. So a good example for that will be Rob Janoff. So for those of you who don't know, Rob Janoff is the iconic, epic designer of the Apple logo, right? And he was joining Fiverr Pro, which is the high-end, high-quality services that we offer on the platform, to sell his logos on Fiverr. And the message was very clear. If Rob Janoff is selling by the way, for $10,000, not for five, his logos on the platform, what does it mean about the quality of the platform? And then it worked so well. So we partnered with so many more musicians and writers and different celebrities in order to show that they are part of our platform. And the message was very, very clear. And there were different other tactics, but we really evolved since those early days.
And you used YouTube quite a bit, didn't you? How did you use YouTube? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. So if you go to YouTube now and you search for Fiverr, you will find hundreds of results. And most of them, by the way, are completely organic. And when I say results, I mean videos that are showing our platform. And usually in a very, very positive way in so many categories and type of services. And it actually started as an organic trend where people were hiring different freelancers on our platform. They were documenting the process and the deliverables, and it became extremely viral because people really liked it. It's a creative process. It's fun to see, it's creating this kind of, people are curious to see how will it, what will be the result of this process. And then when we realized it's becoming such a trend, we decided to join the party and use influencers ourselves to kind of amplify this phenomena. And it's still going on, and it's absolutely amazing to see how creative people can be, and what an amazing diverse pool of talent you can find on Fiverr. And I think, when you have an ad, it's very static. You can use only few words, right? And it's really hard to convey a message. But when you have influencers and they're organic influencers and they can document themselves for 10 minutes, you have everything, right? This is really, really good in conveying the message you want to, and showing the quality of the platform. So I think and people believe them because it's organic. It's not being perceived as something intrusive or
it's genuine,
trying
right?
to sell you something in a very intrusive way.
Yeah, it's really genuine when you have your users who are showcasing what you're doing. I think that's really cool. Yeah, guys, if you have a chance, definitely check it out, because I was really impressed with how they utilize that platform. Okay, cool. So let's talk a little bit about the last 12 months. Obviously, last 12 months have been crazy for everyone, us included, but it's been a wild ride. So yeah, what have you done differently? Have you pivoted? Tell us.
What have we done differently? Everything. Everything, really everything. So you're taking me back to mid-March, where the whole world stopped for a while, if you know what I mean. There were so many things going on, so many things that we planned, and none of them were relevant. None of this was relevant anymore, which was absolutely an amazing challenge on one hand, but also one of the best lessons that I learned as a professional. I'll start by the fact that we had a campaign that was about to be shot in LA, in the US. We worked on it, I think, for a few months, and then no traveling, no shooting. You can't gather in one place, so we realized that we're really, really stuck. But the way we pivoted and turned it around is that we said, let's use this crisis to show that you can actually create amazing ads on Fiverr without the need to, travel and do something physically, right? So we use our freelancers. We created an amazing ad that is actually telling the story of a company that wanted to do an ad, to do a commercial while traveling, and it was all planned, and then no traveling, no airplanes, no nothing. And how did they do it on Fiverr? We showed the whole video about this story was shot on Fiverr, was done on Fiverr. It was amazing. It was so viral. It's called Remote Work. You can also find it on our YouTube channel. So that's just one example. We had out of home campaigns, on the subway in New York that were planned for April. Now think about the subway in New York in April. No one was there, right?
No thanks.
So we had to postpone all those out of home campaigns. We realized all of a sudden that there's amazing opportunities in the media, because there were a few advertisers, major advertisers, that pulled off and reduced their budget to almost nothing. So on one hand, there was more available space on Facebook, on Google, on YouTube. And on the other hand, the viewership increased dramatically. So people were spending time at home, lockdowns, watching TV all day long or watching YouTube. So on one hand, prices went down, viewership went up. There was a lot of opportunities in the media that we took advantage of. In addition, we needed to change all our messaging. So you can't use the same messaging. So on social, on CRMs, with our emails. And we used a lot of ways to support our community, because we realized that especially small businesses and freelancers and in these unprecedented times needed a lot of support. So we used a lot of our resources to create hubs and case studies, and we used a plan of micro grants to give to small businesses in order for them to help them shift from offline to online. So we did a lot of initiatives around our community. We're also very famous for our community events. So we have a big community of businesses and freelancers. We have over 250 events, physical events, all around the world every single year. And again, no longer physical events, right? So we shifted all our events to be virtual and online, which actually drove much more engagement and traffic than before. So eventually, I think we needed to do everything different. But if you move fast and you're flexible and you're agile, it can definitely work for your benefit. And this is how I feel about what we've been able to achieve.
So I guess in many ways, like a lot of startups go through that process of like, maybe they didn't have something that worked before, but they have to figure out what's going to work now. Can you talk a bit about like, how do you determine which marketing channels to use, and like, how do you go through that learning curve as quickly as possible?
Yeah. So the first thing that I think is most important is to be data driven. You need to measure everything you do, and that's something that in Fiverr is one of the principles that is leading us in marketing. We're measuring everything. So and even things that we can't really measure, we're doing every possible effort to measure. So out of home is something that is hard to measure, right? It's not direct response, it's not performance marketing, but we did a lot of efforts to even measure those type of activities. So we're really crazy about measurement and obsessed about it. And I think that's helping us navigate through the right channels, because when you know what your CPAs are, cost per acquisition, versus the investment you make, and conversion rates, and then obviously also lifetime value of customers that are joining, or their, you know, the way you measure it doesn't need to be lifetime value, but can be their spend or their average price. So that's something we measure constantly. I think attribution is also very important. And when I say attribution, is that you need to know how to attribute um, the, the right customer to the right channel, because in many cases, your customer will be exposed to more than one channel, right? So they might see an ad on Facebook, and then they might be exposed to a PR article, or you know, different messages are involved in the consideration process of a customer. How do you then attribute it, you know, the right customer to the right channel? This is something that we've been working on constantly, and making it better and better, our attribution models. At the same time, I want to say, as much as you are obsessed on data and attribution, I think you need to leave room for intuition and gut feelings.
So wait,
So
I need to know, do you do first touch or last touch attribution?
multi-touch.
This is the argument. Okay.
Yeah. So we do multi-touch. So we really use advanced algorithms to know exactly which channel contribute to what. But I'm telling you, the way I'm making decision sometimes about our budget is also using a lot of my intuition. So I would leave room to intuition and give it its respect, because I think, you know, years of experience and common sense is, or even it doesn't need to be years of experience. Experience and common sense is also very important. And then I would say, and this is something very general, but I would say it anyway. I think the first priority should always be for startups, should be intent-based marketing. So when people are looking for your service or your product, you have to be there. You need to dominate intent-based marketing. What does it mean? It means great SEO. It means PPC. It means being in this first layer. This is the first and fundamental layer of marketing. When your customers are looking for you, you need to be there, right? So in our case, when people are looking for website design or social media marketing, we need to be there and make sure that when they're searching for us or searching for the service that we can offer, we'll be there. I think on top of that, after you made sure that you are there wherever your customers are, and this is probably the place where you're going to get the best ROI, you know, considering your question about how do you choose, then you add layers of intent creation. So how do you create the intent of people that are not there yet, right? So this is obviously branding. I think in terms of ROI, again, branding is also branding activities like PR, social marketing, influencers, are also channels that I would definitely want to measure and understand their contribution in the overall mix.
I really like that. And I guess when you talk about that different messaging, because you have so many customers that you're there for at that intent stage, maybe you could talk a bit more about that personalization stuff that you're talking about earlier. Like, how do you personalize?
Yeah, so I think it starts with understanding who your customers are and what are the main dimensions that kind of divide them into different groups. And when I say knowing who your customers are, so yes, one, again, be extremely data driven, use the data to understand who your customers are, but also make sure that you mix it with customer surveys where you also get qualitative information and data and not only quantitative. And what I usually do, and it's not only me, by the way, it's our entire management meeting and product teams and marketing teams, is that I meet with customers regularly. So I meet with both freelancers and businesses of all sizes, people that are happy with our platform, people that have been there for many years, people who just started. Sometimes they don't have the best experience, and I need to learn about that as well. And I'm meeting them for an hour, and I do it once every 2 weeks, just to hear about their experience. I think there's firsthand communication or experience is something that you cannot replace, because you put faces behind those, graphs and data and all of that. So I think, one, understanding your customer, making sure you combine all those sources of knowledge and information in order to better know your customers. I think the second thing is make sure you understand what are the dimensions that are differentiating between one group of customers to another. That it can be so many dimensions, right? It can be endless. You can create so many little groups of customers. That will not be effective. I think you need to really identify those that are making a difference between different groups, and then make sure that you understand those groups and you use different messages to those different audiences. And what I would add to that is that you need to make sure that you monitor also the timing and the frequency. Because if you're going to bombard your audience with messages and emails and notifications, they will become indifferent and they will stop listening to you. So frequency is really important, and also timing. Real time is the best. Everything that is not happening real time is you're losing the customer. So emails are okay, but they're not usually real time communication means. So if you can use real-time messaging in any way on your platform, on the product, in the app, that will be probably the best way to communicate with your customers.
Like those chatbots that pop up on the side?
It can be notification. It can be messages in the product itself that are more native in nature and less intrusive. So you don't need to have a chat, a pop-up, which is kind of intrusive, and people kind of close them immediately without even noticing. There are native ways or ways to keep the experience very native to communicate with your customers. And it should be something that react to an event. So a customer that, I don't know, was browsing for a while, looked for different services, but then eventually didn't find what he wanted. You can use this segment with real-time messaging without being intrusive to really guide them and help them to navigate the catalog. For example, as an example on our platform. And there are so many examples like this where you can give a customer a helping hand and it will eventually pays off.
That makes a lot of sense. I've seen a couple of startups, or I've seen a couple tactics where they essentially have like 10 different AdWord messages, and then based on which one they click to, it goes to a different landing page. What do you think of that tactic?
I think it's great. I think the more you do testing, the more you're going to learn, the more variations you're going to have, the more you're going to know which one to use and which one will be the best. I think testing is the key to everything. So in performance marketing, testing and data, use data and then test forever is what I would recommend. To do. Again, don't take it to the extreme, because at some point you need to move on. Once you optimize something, don't keep optimizing it forever. Move to the next challenge. There's so many things to test and optimize.
I think a lot of the founders and startups on our call today might have some very low budgets. So I'd be keen to learn what should they be doing at the early days when there's like zero or very little budget?
Yeah, so as I said, I think the best ROI when you have small budget will be, as a first priority, will be intent-based marketing. Again, be where your customers are, right? It can be with paid marketing, and it can be completely organic. It can be on forums or groups or communities, or using specific influencers. But make sure when your customers are looking for a service that you offer or for your product, you need to be there. If you're not there, you can't start. This is the starting point. So, and I think in terms of in terms of startups that have small budget. And by the way, I've been in few of those, and also Fiverr started like this. As I said, we started with no investment in marketing whatsoever. But when people were looking for digital services, we started to make sure that we're there. It means investing in SEO, right? Which is not a very expensive investment to do. It's mainly in skilled people that can help you with your SEO strategy, but it shouldn't be expensive. If you have the budget, use PPC and the relevant keywords that are relevant. And again, a tactic that can use small budget is not to run on the main keywords, but on long tail. So, long tail can be variation of your main keywords on Google. This is usually less expensive. And although it's not the same volume, it can create something, it can start something. And obviously all those organic channels that I talked about, so forums and influencers and social media, those are all inexpensive channels that I think you need to add on your intent-based marketing in order to start creating the awareness and the intent.
Awesome. Those are some great examples. And yeah, SEO, it just takes a long time. You got to write a lot. I might just jump back because one of our attendees has asked you to elaborate a bit more on if you could provide some more examples of real-time native non-intrusive communications.
Yeah. So again, some of it actually requires development on your product, right? But on Fiverr, for example, if you go to the platform, part of the design of the product itself or part of the carousels you're going to see are actually hiding messages or education or a type of personalization that we want to show you. So I'll give an example. So if you looked for website services, right, to build a website, you will actually find a guide. You will see when you next going to log into our platform, you're going to find a guide that will not be shown to everyone, but will be shown to those who looked for website building services on how to use multiple services after you build your website. Because after you will build your website, you need also SEO and probably design and maybe content marketing. So you'll find those guides on our platform. This is a very native experience because it's not going to be, you and I will not see the same experience. But it feels very native. Now, this obviously requires development, but I think if you think about this from the very beginning, how to integrate personalization, education, sometimes even inspiration into your product, your platform, or your service, that is being perceived as very native experience. It's not intrusive. And it's extremely relevant. Inbox, some products like our platform, you have an inbox. Your inbox can contain messages that are not intrusive and again, gives the feeling of a guidance instead of just selling something or hard sell. And there's other examples of things you can do. It really depends on your service or your product. So, but I guess those are just few examples.
Awesome. I'm going to start going into some, oh wait, we have another audience question. Let me jump onto this one and then I will go to some of the audience submitted questions beforehand. So question, does Fiverr let the forum/online community do its thing to grow native intent creation, or do you growth hack this as a channel?
Not sure I understand the question. Can you repeat it?
So I guess the Fiverr online forum community is super active, right?
Yes.
So do you guys actively, use that as a channel, or do you just let it grow natively?
Oh yeah, that's a very good question. So one, it's growing natively in an amazing way because the bigger our community, the bigger becomes the forum, and it's extremely active. And usually what you have there is freelancers, and we call them, by the way, sellers and buyers. So freelancers are sellers, and buyers are those businesses. So if I use this terminology, you know what I'm talking about. Sellers are usually supporting each other, and it's amazing to see. You can see a first-time seller or a seller that is just starting up, and he's looking for tips and a piece of advice, and he can find it on the forum. We have volunteers that are guiding freelancers on the forum and moderating the forum to make sure that it's, you know, the content that there is appropriate. So we do kind of guide it and moderate it, but it's mainly being used by our community and growing organically, which is a beautiful thing to see, and I think a very strong statement of how powerful our community is.
Yeah, that's awesome. When it works, eh? So this actually relates to that. So this, I'm moving on to some of the audience submitted questions. So this kind of relates to that kind of community. Do you place more emphasis on marketing to your buyers or your sellers? So the freelancers or the other ones?
The sellers and the buyers, the freelancers and the businesses.
Yes, freelancers and businesses. And has this changed over the years on which one you place more emphasis on?
Yeah. So in terms of, first of all, it's really hard to kind of differentiate them in a very, to isolate them, right? Because, you know, I'll give you an example. When we do brand campaigns and advertising, and we did many in the last few years, we usually use our community. So we use our real sellers and buyers, our real freelancers and businesses, to everything we do, from out of home to TV ads. We use real businesses and real freelancers from our community. And then those kind of brand campaigns are actually relevant to everyone. And we found out that they're attracting both businesses and freelancers. But if you look at our performance marketing, it's more focused on buyers and businesses. So I talked a lot about intent-based marketing. People that are looking for website building are usually the businesses. So this is the demand side of the platform and not the supply side of the platform. I think one thing that is unique about our supply is that it's joining the platform organically, and we have huge variety of sellers and freelancers, talented freelancers from all over the world that are joining our platform organically, and this is something we're very, very proud of. So I would say on intent-based marketing, more demand-oriented. On the branding activities, it usually speaks to both.
I wasn't expecting you to say that. I thought it was going to change like one side or the other at a time, but I like that. So you've obviously got a very diverse customer base, lots of different people with different beliefs and values. How do you build trust in that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. How do you build trust? I think the first thing that you need to be transparent and open and consistent. I think this is something we're trying to do over the years, and I think we've been successful in that. I mean, how do you build trust? First, you don't make promises that you cannot meet, right? And I think that's important. So to try to keep up your promises, not to try, you have to keep up your promises. That this is something I would say. So I think we're trying to do that as a brand, in our customer support, in a product. I cannot tell you that it's 100% valid all the times, but this is something that we definitely aspire to. I think you need to be transparent and open. There's a lot of open dialogue with our community on the forum, on social. As I said, with clients face to face, which is something that we do a lot through community events. I think when you meet with your customers, when you give them a feeling that there are faces behind the brand, it's not just, machines and platforms. You can create trust. Another way to create trust, again, as I said, is to use your community in your own marketing messages. All our brand campaigns in the last few years I think in the last 5 years, put we used to put our community in the center. So if you go to our site now and you look at the homepage, it's freelancers and businesses that are telling their stories, and this is true also to our TV campaign that is running now in the US, and to the last photo shoot that we did. It's all using our community, their faces, and their stories. Um, and I think that's it. If you have a brand that is based on community, this is where the trust begins. And when you make sure that you are transparent and open, and you are keeping your promises, it's creating trust.
Awesome. We've got another question from an attendee here. So you mentioned the analytics and how you make sure you track everything really data focused. Did you use something off the shelf to begin with, or did you customize and develop that from the start?
So yeah, we do use I think a mixture of in-house and external third-party technologies. We have a very strong internal team, by the way, again, that grew with the years. We didn't start with that, right? Of business analytics experts, and also data science experts that are building our data infrastructure, the algorithms, all the analytics and dashboards that we use. But we also use external tools. So for example, from our marketing automation, we use Braze, which is a platform that it's also started as a startup, but it's a very successful company now. It's an American company, and they have a very strong platform for marketing automation. So this is the platform we use for that. We use Tableau, for example, for our dashboards and analytics. So we do use a blend of third-party technologies and very strong in-house team.
Speaking of tools, what are your favorite resources and other tools that you might use, or that you recommend for other startups to use?
Oh, there's so many. I can't, I think it really depends on your size, and that's a question that I've often been asked. But the tools that we are using now are tools that are suitable for a company at our size, with the number of employees that we have, and with the number of customers that we have. So I'm not sure, the tools that I just mentioned are good for a small startup that is just starting up. I think there's so many tools out there today, for collaboration, and we use internal collaboration. We use obviously Slack. This is really helping us. We use a very, very nice tool. It's also a startup. It's an Israeli startup, actually, for HR management. It's called HiBob, but then again, it depends on the scale of the company. I wouldn't use it if I was a 20 people startup, because you don't need an infrastructure to manage your HR at this point. So it really depends on your size. But yeah, if anyone wants some, I'll be more than happy to give a list of favorable tools. Depends on your size of the business.
What about resources? Like, is there anywhere that you go to read up on the latest marketing tactics?
Education
Yes.
and reading materials.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you read this the newsletter, but there's the Marketing Brew and the Morning Brew. It's an amazing newsletter. I'm a subscriber, so I read it daily. It gives me everything I need to know, really. I like a very friendly, nice way. There's also the usual suspects like AdAge and AdWeek and other publications that I'm reading. We have a lot of internal tools or internal channels that we use on Slack, where people are sharing internally in the company interesting things they read. So we have a very active Slack channel for our marketing team, and people are sharing beautiful things like really interesting campaigns or spots or commercials that they saw, or any kind of PR stunts or activations and things that are cool in general. So I use this a lot to specifically, using the power, the wisdom of the crowd in order to know what's interesting and get more information about what's going on.
Do you ever post to the Fiverr platform and get their help?
Of course. I mean, the Fiverr platform is a lot of our marketing today is being done on our marketing activities today is being done on the platform. So, from writing to design to video editors to voiceover, we use I think we are the biggest client of Fiverr today. I mean, the Fiverr teams are the biggest customer of Fiverr for sure.
That's awesome. Okay, so we've got a question here that was submitted. So they're asking about your top 5 performing marketing channels, and if you could help basically provide a cost versus ROI of those top channels.
Wow. Yeah.
Maybe an overview, if top performing channel cost ROI.
Yeah, I obviously can't say what is the CPA of marketing of different marketing channels, but I really think there's no way I can say this is the 5 top marketing channels, because I think it really varies across companies, size of the company, budget, industries, B2B versus B2C. I mean, there's so many factors that are influencing that. I would note again, and this is like a very rough way of describing it, is that for intent-based marketing, SEO is a very strong tool, and so is Google search. Sometimes can be expensive, but usually in terms of ROI, especially on long tail, can bring you great results. Social, Instagram and Facebook, and now TikTok, again, really depends on the on the type of business, on the industry, but can be extremely effective in specific industries or business models. YouTube can be a very strong channel if you use it right and you know how to attributes, because again, it's not last click. So it's complex, but if you know how to use it right and attribute right, can be a very, very strong channel. And in terms of more organic or brand channels, I would definitely say influencers and social marketing.
Awesome. That was a good overview. I knew it was a tough question, but I figured we'd ask it just in case that person is here. So hopefully you guys got your answer at least. Cool. So any local marketing strategies that work really well when you're trying to launch in a new city or country?
Yeah, in a new city or country, that's a very good question. First, my advice to people who wants to launch their marketing in a new city or country is make sure you don't make assumptions. Whatever you know about the US is not relevant in the UK. Whatever you know about Germany is not relevant in Australia, and so on. Make sure you do a market research. You know the market. You know what the difference. I can give an example about Fiverr. Before we are launching a market, we are making sure we understand the data that we already have from our platform on how those customers from those countries are behaving on the platform. Our platform used to be in English only a year ago. Now you can find it in additional languages, but it was in English only. So the way we penetrated more markets is that we really went after markets that have high proficiency of English, if we wanted to go outside of those English-speaking countries like Australia, US, and Canada. So make sure you know everything that there is to know about the data that you have, about the market. Take local experts. I think this is really important. You can't just sit in your office in Tel Aviv and assume you can market to people in Germany. That's not working like that. Make sure you have people who speak the language, who know the culture, who have local expertise. And then, after you understand who are the competitors, what is the landscape, who are you, what is the maturity of the audience that you are marketing to, then you need to build the right plan, to start small, to start testing, see what's working, and then take it from there. I think that will be like the main tips for a new market penetration.
Awesome. And do you have a favorite marketing strategy?
Favorite marketing strategy. Listen, I'm about experimenting. And I think that's the strategy. The strategy is that once you know the audience and and you really understand the data, then you need to start experimenting, following the tactics you decided to go with. So if you understand that those are the customers' needs in a certain territory, and you are understanding the needs, then you need to start experimenting. And you can start small with growth marketing, and then you can expand it. I think that's one. And the second one, I think, is to think like a super brand. I mean, Fiverr didn't start the way we are today, right? We were small. It was a few employees company without a lot of funding, and here we are today. And I think the reason why we got here today, there were many reasons, not just one, right? But one of the reasons is that we always thought like a super brand. So even when we were small, we had the aspirations of a huge big brand. And I think that's something that I would, as a kind of DNA, I think it's something that I really like, and I'm trying to follow.
Awesome. Sorry, guys. I was taking notes on that one. I like that. Think like a big brand, even when you're still small. That's fantastic. Okay, so we're going through a couple more questions here. We have one from one of our audience members. How do you create virality?
Yeah, I think that's probably the magic
Tell
formula
us.
that no one knows how to
Give
create.
us your secret sauce.
How do you create virality? I think you need to ask yourself, how viral is your product or service? Can you find elements and develop elements in your product or your service that will become viral? And I'll give you an example. We found out that our sellers, our freelancers, when they just start off on the platform, in order to bring traffic to their services, they will promote themselves outside of the platform. So let's say I'm a graphic designer and I want people to come and buy from me on Fiverr. What I would probably do is that I would go and promote myself on Facebook, on Instagram, maybe on forums that I'm active in, or if I'm a voiceover artist, maybe on SoundCloud, and so on and so forth. And eventually what we found out is that so many freelancers are promoting themselves outside of the platform that it creates a lot of virality, because they bring us free traffic. So what we did is we encourage that in so many ways. So today in the platform, you'll find sharing buttons and places where, when you have a good experience as a seller or buyer, you can share it with the world. And why is that important? Because it creates virality. So I'm sure there are a lot of places where you can leverage your customer base and you can create virality by using attributes of the product or the service. So I think that's one kind of rule. And the second one is to think about content, which is it's easier said than done, right? Content and things that people can talk about and share. I think we found out, kind of by testing, what are those social posts that are becoming more viral than others. And while we're learning that, we're trying to create this formula for other channels as well. So I think, again, by testing, you will find out those things that are being shared the most by your community and being talked about.
Awesome. And yes, to everyone who is here today, we have recorded this. We will be sending it out. We will also be taking some notes and doing a summary and posting it on our blog. So please come and read that. Okay, so we are coming to the end of our time here. I've got one last question for you, Gali. What is the funnest project you've ever posted on Fiverr, and what was it?
The funnest project. I mean, personally or?
Personally, yeah.
Oh my God, I'll tell you, I have two beautiful stories actually. I was going to a bat mitzvah trip with my daughter to Paris. And because, I'm working all the time, I didn't have time to do my homework about Paris, and I didn't know enough about what we're gonna do there before I went. So I said to myself, why not looking at Fiverr? Maybe there's something there that can help me. So I searched on Fiverr for guidance, tourist guidance on in Paris, and I found this amazing seller. This is what she's doing. She's building plans, individual plans for you for your tour in Paris, because she's an expert in Paris, and she built me and my daughter an amazing plan for the trip. So that was a beautiful experience. And I think the second very creative project I did is that when my mother turned 70, when she had her birthday, I took a beautiful picture that we took her picture with all the grandchildren, and I gave it to an amazing illustrator on Fiverr, and she painted it and sent it to me by mail. And up until today, it's been hanging on the wall at my parents' house. It's beautiful and it's touching, and I'm really proud of that.
Aw, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time here. Like I said, everyone, we will be sharing this recording on our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe, and make sure you please fill out the survey at the end. Otherwise, please give Gali a virtual round of applause for her time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Good night and good day or good morning for you.
All right. Bye. Thank you so much.